Welcome back to Friday Lunch Break, the series where we make work from home Fridays just a little bit better and start the weekend just a tiny bit early. Today we got a classic comfort food, a Quiznos French Dip sandwich, toasty bread, melty cheese, roasted beef, and of course that hot and savory au jus. And for today's drink pairing, we're pouring one of the smoothest, most iconic beers on earth, Guinness Draught. Now let's get into it. Alright, let's talk about Guinness while we pour this beauty. Guinness Draught is famous for this moment right here, the cascade. That nitrogen pour gives you those tiny bubbles and that gorgeous waterfall effect and that creamy head that settles into the perfect black and tan look. Dark body on the bottom and a light foam on top. Guinness comes from the legendary St. James Gate Brewery in Dublin, where they've been brewing since 1759. Yes, over 260 years. Arthur Guinness was so confident in the brewery that he signed a 9,000-year lease. The beer itself is brewed using roasted barley, which gives you that coffee, chocolate, and slightly smoky flavor, but without being too heavy. In fact, Guinness Draught is surprisingly light. It has fewer calories than most light beers, and that creamy texture comes from the nitrogen, not extra sugar. We're going to let this settle for a minute because the Guinness needs time to become its best self. Okay, let's take our first bite of this French dip. Damn, Quiznos still knows how to make a toasted sandwich. The roast beef, the cheese, and crispy bread, and that au jus is salty, savory, and beefy perfection. Now let's try it with the Guinness. Oh yeah, that works way better than you'd expect. And here's why. Guinness has roasted barley notes, cocoa, coffee, and toasty flavors. And you know what that does? It mirrors the toasted bread. It matches perfect with the roast beef, and it actually deepens the flavor of the French dip instead of fighting it. Plus the nitrogen gives Guinness that smooth, creamy texture that cleanses your palate after each salty, savory bite. It's refreshing without being bright, smooth without being sweet, and honestly it's a near perfect sandwich beer. Fun fact, Guinness Draught is only 4.2% alcohol, which makes it great for a weekday lunch beer. It won't knock you out at 1 p.m., it's designed to be sessionable, meaning you can drink it over time without it being heavy. Another cool thing, Guinness is brewed with water from the Wicklow Mountains. Rain that falls there works its way into the Dublin water system, so every pint has a little piece of Ireland in it. Now as we keep eating, let's talk a little more about the French dip. The sandwich isn't actually French at all. It was invented in Los Angeles in the early 1900s, where two restaurants claim they created it. Both of them swear it was an accident, involving a drop sandwich in a beef pan, but regardless of who did it, the au jus dip became legendary. And this Quiznos version is pretty solid. The bread stays crisp while the au jus is salty and savory and peppery. That saltiness is why Guinness pairs so well. The bitterness and roasted flavors cut through the richness, and when you take a sip after the dip, everything resets. If you're looking for alternatives to Guinness for a French dip, you could also try an Irish red ale, an English mid lager, or even a dry cider. But honestly, Guinness is the king for a reason. One more fun Guinness fact while we eat. Guinness was one of the first breweries in the world to hire full-time scientists. They literally built a laboratory in 1900s just to study beer quality. That's dedication. And that's why every can with a nitrogen widget tastes almost like it came from the tap in Dublin. And one last pairing note, the slight bitterness in Guinness balances the fat in the roast beef, while the carbonation, those micro nitrogen bubbles, keep it from feeling heavy. It's comforting and clean, rich but not overwhelming, and exactly what a French dip wants. And that wraps up today's Friday lunch break. A Quiznos French dip and a perfectly poured Guinness Draught. Simple, comforting, and honestly a fantastic pairing for easing into the weekend. If you enjoyed these videos, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us what we should pair next. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we hope to see you on next Friday.